My name is Justin.
I'm Adam.
And my name is Cole, and my pronouns are they and them.
And we would like to thank you for choosing to join us on this evening. I hope everyone's having a great MAGFest. We'd just like to start things off by level setting a bit. As the description of this panel noted, we are shooting for a roundtable type discussion. That's a moderated discussion. I would like to have everyone in the room feel comfortable to share questions, comments on what people are saying, what you've heard other people say. I would ask that people raise their hands if they have something, interjections, or maybe a little bit.
Just be respectful.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I don't want to say don't do it, but and yeah, I will try to get around to everyone. I have a few short lecture topics prepared. If you feel like the conversation is dragging a little bit, I can talk to those. I'm really just, I guess as a matter of introduction, really just speaking through my experiences. Someone who's played in DM for a few years now, presented a MAGFest for a few years as well. We all have at the table. As such, my experience isn't necessarily worth any more or less than anybody else's in the room. I feel like that goes very often. No matter how much you play or haven't played here and you're willing to take part in the conversation, we want to hear from you. So feel free to speak out. Either of you have anything else you'd like to say by way of introduction?
Not really. I've been playing D&D for like 5 years now, I think. I also do a couple D&D centered podcasts, so I'm pretty familiar with a couple of editions, mostly 3.5, 4, and 5.
Hey Cole, what are your podcasts?
I have to do this, I have too many. I know, I'm sorry. There is a podcast that I was recently on called Escape This Podcast. They do sort of escape room podcasts. We were put through a dungeon run that was very cool. It's a very interesting podcast. I would highly check it out. It is really hard to talk with his teeth in. One sec. There we go. That's better. Cool. So, I also just wrapped up a 2.5, 3-year podcast called Blue Dawn. We play a game called Dungeon World, which is sort of like a subset of D&D. I've also been a guest on a bunch of one-shots that, if you want, you can come talk to me later.
And speaking of Dungeon World, the focus of the conversation, I would like to keep to D&D, but a lot of the skills that we discuss are going to be transferable to other game systems as well. So you may hear us use D&D specific terms, but I think a lot of what we discuss here is transferable to other games.
Yes.
My background, I own an interactive storytelling company and produce live installations for people with choose your own adventure elements, and I'm a fan of various role-playing games. D&D experience is 5e primarily, and I do a lot of stuff in regards to live role play and comedy entertainment situations.
And see us a roll for MAGFest?
Yes, we got the 6th annual Roll for MAGFest live play, and that's going to be taking place at English Core at 9 p.m. It's not D&D, it's a custom rule set based off a bunch of people dying in a Titanic. Very impressive.
Great way to kick off this panel. So, I think let's do the stereotypical here has run a tabletop RPG game before.
Okay, cool.
Cool. Alright, as most people here have not, and want to try. Okay. Cool.
Who here has never played a tabletop game before? Awesome, so we're all on the same page.
Cool. Okay. Well, I think where I'd like to start is for those of you who have not run your first tabletop RPG game, I think if I'm able to, where I'd like y'all to leave the room is in a place where you feel maybe a little bit more comfortable with giving it a shot. So I guess this is a question more targeted at all of you. Are there any, for you aspiring DMs, are there any questions or any things that are causing you tension that you say might contribute to you not having to take that lead. Go for it.
It's like I'm here because I want to try and really so I guess it's like playing with people who are experienced, playing with people who memorize the players
Okay.
while you're here like, oh,
How do I roll for the show?
Right. So if I could, and I'll repeat back what people are saying just to make sure that I get what you're saying and that everyone is on the same page. So
I'm free with the player, but not with the DM. And the only thing stopping me from being is I'm afraid that my players are going to know a lot more than
Sure.
I do.
So because
So, DMing is scary. Especially your first couple of times, DMing is really tough. But that's how you learn to be a better DM, is speaking with DMs who have experience, like us or like with the other players, and just trying to keep your cool. And I know that's sometimes a little tough, but don't worry that you don't have experience, because the only way to get experience is by doing it. And of course, when you start off, you're not going to be fucking Picasso of DMs. You're going to be like with a little pen and pencil, trying to do the best dignity you can. It's just working on building that and figuring out where, in terms of DMing, you have your weaknesses and working on improving them. And sometimes having people who know how to DM in your party will help you with that.
Yeah, I think that's a really great positive spin to put on it. You can have people who can help clarify rules questions for people in your party. And I think even, I'll ask this as a question to everybody in the room. Even if you've been DMing for 5 years, 10 years, how many of you still get called out on little misunderstandings by your players?
Yeah.
It happens to me all the time. Like, I can know so much, but I have so much that I keep track of in my head that,
You're gonna forget.
I'm going to forget that Fireball is... I'm forgetting right now, Fireball is 86 or 66? It's 8? It's 8?
Yeah. So,
It's 8?
I think it depends on how you spell your spell level.
Okay. But, yeah, so things like...
8d6 and you don't pass it.
There you go.
See, look, there's so much stuff about D&D, you're not going to remember it all. If you do, I need your brain, but you're not going to remember it all. And if you have friends that are going to give you shit for not knowing, they're probably not very good friends. Unless they're, like, kidding, and then it's fine.
I want to get back to that, but let's get to some audience questions.
Yes.
Yeah. So to repeat back what you said, controlling, having an idea of the scope you want to go for. If you want to do just a one-shot adventure and you ease yourself into it, get yourself just over those initial jitters, that can be really helpful. You don't need to shoot for the first time you do. Your first campaign is in 2 minutes. Cool. What's up?
I was just going to say also, don't be afraid to admit this. Ask the players, okay, where do you think the characters are going to go next? So you don't have to leave.
Yeah, I think that's completely fair. Sometimes people will. I feel like there is in some cases a sort of fair idea that as a GM you need to have everything that you possibly have planned on paper, ready to roll. So if you go to Dungeon 1, 2, and 3, if you're in Quest 1 and 3, you have it all planned out already.
Chances are, if you have Dungeons 1, 2, and 3 planned out, they'll want to go to 4. So you can't plan for everything your players are going to do.
Yeah, it's totally fair. Alright, yeah.
My experience is you have to be flexible with everything up to and including your villain's opening plan. I've been running games where I'm dropping hints and the players put them together and come to the totally wrong conclusion. And I'm sitting there like, that's way better than what I did. And then I'm like, yes, that's correct. Here's the
You figured out my master plan all along.
and the game comes out better for that because they're contributing and they feel like they're getting into it.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's maybe a topic I'd like to dive into for a second, if we could. The idea of having a collaborative campaign. I feel like there's another misconception that I see is of being what it takes to be a great GM is this idea that you're completely married to the plot. You have a plot that you're not willing to err from, or that whatever you wrote is better inherently than what the players are doing. But I feel like there's another school of thought, and something that I've been trying to experiment with in my campaign is really having a collaborative effort. Asking, as you mentioned, my players to suggest plot hooks, items that they want, people that they want to encounter in their backstory, or to get their thoughts on what's going on in the campaign so that they can drive it forward, and in a way limiting the sort of planning, long-term planning that I have and instead gravitating more towards focusing my effort in preparation, more towards what the players see to be
A lot of when I DM in my experience, I kind of follow tenets of improvisation in a lot of the ways that I make decisions in regards to leading games. And a lot of people know the kind of yes and the traditional improv comedy, where I build upon what you say and take it further. But another rule that I think is applicable here is following the fun and not looking at a campaign that maybe you took a preset campaign as a to-do list where these things must be told and exposed. But when you find the fun with your players, they're giving to you, you're giving back, and you're finding the things that entertain all of you, chase those and keep following that. If there's a lead for a side adventure or a character or a plot device that you have very little to work with, but everyone is super invested in and excited about, rally around that and kind of follow the fun of your campaign, and it naturally works itself out.
Yeah.
There is a suggestion in Dungeon World to be a fan of your players. If you love your plot but hate your players' characters, maybe you need to step back and rethink your plot. DMs and players aren't separate entities at a table. It's a round table. Everyone needs to work together and bounce ideas off of each other and really be a fan of your adventure.
Webcomics, Gem of the Rings and Darts and Droids are kind of like the two options you expect to do here. I presume people are familiar. DM of the Rings is a screenshot comic of Lord of the Rings, and there the DM has everything written out and railroads players constantly, and they hate the campaign. Darts and Droids, the players are kind of idiots to start with, but everything they suggest, the GM eventually is like, you know what, yeah, sure. And by the end of that campaign, they all love it. They all have a great time. So that's kind of
It's kind of like the difference between Critical Role and Macro Roles. Critical Role is very open world, all the players can do whatever the hell they want, and with McElroy's, I don't want to say he railroads, but also his brothers are kind of idiots, so he kind of has to push them along to a plot they want to do, but still they're having fun.
Cool. In the back.
Something that I do, I don't know if weird color people. Time, that's why I talk. Something that I do with my players, mostly him, and this one over here. They're all rolling their eyes because they hear the steam like awesome. So when I do a game, instead of writing out a plot, that I want all these things to happen. really what I want to happen is, well, I want to have the dragon swoop down and scare the shit out of him. I curse him in every game, and it's always his fault. So I have these things that I want to happen, but they're all flexible, they don't matter. And so we will either, there's a game that I evangelize and I'm okay with. Do it. It's a game called Microscope.
Yes.
It's a collaborative storytelling game. If your players are very structured, or you really like embarrassing your friends and putting them on the spot. They make you, it's like, okay, it's your turn. Put a plot point in our story. And no one is allowed to help. So if you have a friend who suffers from analysis paralysis, don't play that game.
That's actually a really good point about Microscope. Microscope is one of those games where you can play alongside another game. If anyone here is a fan of Friends at the Table, they've done this as well, where their Microscope game plot affected real-world things in their other game system. And it was a really, really interesting way to help world build and also make decisions about plots later in the game.
So something you do at the beginning of the game, we want to play a game. Okay, so I have a couple of things that I want to do. I know my day, plot line, that maybe because I create and so then I'll sit down with my players and together we'll build the world. And I'll say, I'm going to put this, and this in here. Here's some pieces that are in the puzzle somewhere. And something that happens to the players, especially if they're new, is they either have two modes. They know exactly what the character was. The parents are dead, they're totally not dead. But their parents were killed in an armed raid. What happens if there's no works? So then they have nothing. Or so they write a big essay, this is my character, or they have nothing. So if you do a collaborative story build, or the game, the two things happen. A, someone has their idea, they want to do this thing, and then they just put it in the collaborative section of your game. Or if you have no idea, probably by the end of the game, you have an idea of what you want to do, and it lets you build off that, and it makes your players more invested. And especially if you make them cities they want to go to, they start to do a lot of puns, and the key is to really just push through it, and you just then repeat that pun until everyone hates everyone else, and that's when you as the Dungeon Master have truly won.
The tidbit I'm going to take away from that is making my players name things. I can't think of memorable names apparently, so
The key is to write them down. You make your players name them, and then you write it in an Excel sheet or a notepad, and 6 months down the line, they raid someone's mailbox again.
There you go.
You're like, oh yes, that's Steve, his ex-wife is Maria, and I know exactly where they live because I wrote it down on his phone.
So I want to make sure we're getting around to everybody's topics here. If there are any questions that anybody really has a burning desire to have answered, or wants to just discuss with the group, who would like questions? Cool. Let's start in the front. So. I will try to go back to one idea here. This idea that I have heard told to me by a partner of mine. It is the idea of cost of admission. So the idea of cost of admission is if someone is doing something to you in some sort of social setting, be it a relationship, be it a game group, if they're doing something that's disrupting you to the point where it's no longer worth the price of admission, like it's no longer worth the time and the effort that I'm putting into this game, then that's the point where we might need to consider failing at doing something else. I think there are two kinds of quirksome, if someone is respecting the people at the table and messing up the game in a way that is messing up, I use loosely, in a way that is not going to disrupt the enjoyment of the people at the table, then obviously that's fine. But if they're doing it in a way that is disrupting people's enjoyment in a way that's not good, and they continue to do so even after they've been talked to, and I think I do have a very brief lecture on communication at the table that I'd like to get to at some point. Then that's the point where we as players or DMs ask ourselves, is this person's disruption worth the price of admission?
Right. That's a very good
I think a little bit to curb that, and this kind of gets back at the people in the back who just walked in. There's free spaces up here in the front rows. Don't be shy if you want to grab an seat. And this also gets back to the first question of the night about I'm a DM who wants to manage a bunch of experienced players, and how's that going to pan out? I think that this might be in your communication that's come, but setting expectations before you even get to the table is kind of critical. And saying, hey, I have a feeling that this game, you guys could just be trying to break it if you know how the, if the person has a history of that's how they're going to play the game. And saying, I'm really not trying to do that here. This is the session I'm trying to lead, and that would be discouraged, and it's just not part of this game. So if when that does happen, you've had a conversation already of setting expectations of what that game session should be like, and you can say, we need to stop this and not do it. If you have more people on the same page in regards to what they're getting into, it's going to be a cleaner experience throughout because all those standards have been set before.
Communication, like in every relationship, is super important, especially in terms of making things run smoothly.
Yeah, I agree. Does that answer your question? Oh. Yep.
Try to kind of rotate and decide that really flesh out the characters. Right?
Okay.
We have really highlights, draw out details of
Ooh. Yeah, I think it sounds like we're having another situation. Every situation we're going to come to tonight is going to go back to level setting when you start a campaign. I think it sounds like to me the discussion that I'm maybe hearing in terms of, so the question was, if I understand it correctly, the people in your group are looking for, or have up until now, played in a game where it's sort of lighter-hearted, not as story-driven, not as RP-driven, and how do we engage our players to share more, to think more about their character backstories, and to grow their characters, fleshing out a little bit. Am I summarizing it pretty well?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Go for it.
I mean, I have a suggestion, and it's kind of an odd one, but I find it helps people get into their characters more. Whenever people are referring to their characters or the actions that they do, use I. Like, instead of saying, oh, my barbarian swings for this, be like, oh, I swing to hit this guy. Make them actually describe the actions that they're doing, make them describe the way they cast their spells and their magic, and actually get them to try and connect to the characters by not just having you describe literally everything. It gets them to open up a little bit more, and also helps them to get more into the spirit of playing as a character.
Yeah, I think one thing I like to do when there's a sort of natural break in play, if that's like after a big combat or when players are resting in the tavern at the evening or at the end of the session, sometimes I'll just directly point blank ask, how does your character feel right now? They just saw a party member die. How do they feel right now? They just defeated a long-time rival. They just got an amount of money that will allow them to accomplish one of their goals. How do they feel right now?
This one PC's being a dick. Are you guys going to talk about it in character?
Sometimes I go as far as having mandatory story time, where if the characters are on a long commute, or they're sitting around the fire, there's still time to kill, that each of them are going to go around and tell the story from their perspective in character. And if you want to mix it up and kind of like you have some experienced players, you take a D10 and make 2 lists. One is a list of emotions or like states, tragic, sad, joyful, nostalgic, and the other is a list of things the story could be about. Family, employment, hopes and dreams. They roll it twice, and then they have to tell a tragic story about what they think the future's going to be, or a happy memory related to a family member. And everybody goes around and get kind of a directed bit of nugget, and people can build off that initial prompt to give you something to latch onto.
That's great. The improv skills.
Improv skills. Yeah, I run with improv campaigns. So it's really fun to kind of sometimes say like, oh, hey, we're at a point, and now we're going to learn a bit about each of you, and whatever level of prompt you want to give them. That can be a fun way to, even if it's lighthearted, get like, ooh, you have an uncle that you hate that you haven't seen in 15 years. Noted. Or like, oh, you're afraid of water. Great. Like, you find things out that they joke about can become pretty heavy as you go on.
That's it. Cool. Let me go in the back part.
One of my players loves experimental character builds, but very quickly bores of them, and will throw himself into suicidal situations in order to stop having to play that character and play an additional experimental character. And I love theory crafting just for fun. I build characters in my spare time just for fun, just so I can do so. But it's a little bit draining to have to consistently reintroduce characters and constantly craft a new narrative as to why this druid is just randomly finding the party in the middle of the forest. And I'm wondering if you guys have any experience in convincing a character to stay in the current role that they are, because there's only so many, re-roll that saving throw that I can give them without it becoming...
Sure.
That was me for a while, in that I would get really bored with a character and figure out ways to kill them off. Zombies, monsters, things like that. It took someone sitting down with me and just telling me that having them to create new reasons for my character to be there was very tiring, and I was like, oh shit, I'm actually affecting the DM in a negative way. It also may have been that it was when I first started DMing, or not DMing, when I first started playing, and I couldn't really figure out what race or what class I wanted to be until I really found one that I liked. And my DM was like, you either die and you don't come back to this party, or you keep doing this. You find a class, you find a race, and you stick with it for this campaign. It's setting ground rules.
I'm stupidly permissive as a DM, so what I would probably do is lean into it, and I might consider leaning into it. That person is now your party's intern. Interns die, you get new interns all the time. Yeah, there you go. So you have a new intern being shipped halfway across the Bay room to join your party, and we're just going to take them. If there's a dangerous situation, we're going to send them in, and what happens happens, and everybody's happy, hopefully.
I think kind of above all else, you can kind of set, you got this already a little bit, you set a rule where it's like, this campaign, you have one character. If that character dies, that's it. You're gonna have to find a way to bring them back within the campaign, and just set an expectation that that game will not welcome you suicide over and over.
That's fair.
In this campaign I'm playing, it seems that almost every player in the campaign has changed their character at least once. So I play, in this game, you don't have to kill yourself, you just have to hey, and you play your character, and then they find a way to the character reach or something. Mostly it's just character. Exactly. But that's not it. The reason why I'm doing it is to make fun of it. And I mean, it can affect the players too, because again, I'm the only player who's not gifted and now it's I feel extra nervous every time the character is close. Oh no, if this character dies, then suddenly the party that's playing right now is going to be a party totally different from the beginning of this campaign. I can't
It's like that hammer conundrum, you replace the head of the hammer and then the handle of the hammer, is it still the same hammer? So it's still the same party if they keep dying. Also, we have seats up front for people on the back.
race, but they have to maintain one entity to accomplish.
Okay.
I'll put a little button of encouragement if you or people you know constantly like to switch characters. It can be fun to challenge yourself to try to change the character you're in instead of needing a complete A to B to be able to think differently. Challenge yourself to give the character you're playing some experience or action or adventure that will change who they are fundamentally. And it's fun and a challenge to try to do that. Convert what you're playing to something that you are equally as excited about.
Cool. All right. Let's go in the back. I want to make sure I'm here. Let's go with blue shirt, glasses, right here. Might be slightly colorblind. Yep.
That's definitely not.
Okay, we're moving.
So, I think it's going pretty well perfectly, but the biggest problem that people run into is how do you find a way to make the encounters so that it's challenging, so that it's maybe not just a intimidating party?
Live.
Yeah, that's why people have DM screens. Like, oh no, I actually rolled a nat 20, but that's gonna kill my character. Oh no, he rolled a nat 1, and he's gonna miss.
Yeah, I like to try avoiding it whenever I can.
Yeah.
But, I mean, at the end of the day, if your party is visibly, it's all about fun. Challenge, and the different parties will have a different conception of what level of challenging combat is fun. Some people really like, the meat grinder combat. Some people really just want an intrigue game, and if you have combat every now and then, just break it up. I think evaluating where your party stands in terms of challenge, in terms of engagement in combat, is helpful. And I think the way I typically would do that is by making encounters just what I seem to be a little too hard, so that I can tune it down from there. It's easier to fudge for me. It's easier to fudge an encounter down a little bit. By, if somebody's going to take lethal damage, maybe not recording too often now. If somebody is going to draw aggro in a situation where they're attacking an intelligent creature, posing a threat to it, and the spellcaster is clearly back there posing a threat to an intelligent creature. If the intelligent creature is my target, switch the spellcaster. I might have that target attack instead. Things like that. Affecting damage rolls isn't necessarily the only way to nerf your combat. But yeah, I think really this is counterbalancing is such a complicated subject that I couldn't really cover it in 2 minutes.
We could do a whole other panel on balancing encounters.
Yeah, but my suggestion would be make a counter that you think is just a little too hard, and then if you need to take away some of the reinforcements, you do that. If you need to change how your mobs are using their abilities or who they're targeting, you do that. If you need to reduce those rolls a little bit, that I'd say is the last resort. Does that give you some ideas for maybe making combat a little bit more clear? Cool. I think somebody's been in for a while. What are your glasses?
What is the etiquette for dealing with absentee players? Because I have my buddies now and I can't get the same people together every night.
That, I think it really depends. There are a couple things that you could do. I know in a game that I'm in, if more than 2 people can't make it per night, we just cancel it altogether. If you are comfortable with it, you could puppet the player's character or give it to another player to puppet alongside their own. I know sometimes they can just not be there and then they magically show up the next session. It really depends on the group feel.
Yeah, I think the important thing as far as etiquette goes is just making sure that you set parameters for who's going to be in control of your character. If your character is going to be gone the whole time, and maybe might not bring some benefits of having been involved in a particular scenario, or what the parameters are in terms of, our team case, is this person into this person is combat, and are they just unconscious or addicted? Just being very careful about the parameters and discussing that, and not being completely rigid about what might happen in the character in case of someone's absence. And I think one other thing I like to do as part of session 0 is set a number. If I have 5 people in the party, I usually say that if 2 of them can't make a particular session, I don't do it. So, people are adults, like it happens when you're playing a game. I might say today that I'm going to be available next Tuesday, and then work comes up. If I'm not able to make it, I know, because of the discussions that we had, like who's going to be in control of my character, if they're going to die. If 2 people are gone, I know that at the session. And that's not putting pressure on anybody, but that's just being very clear.
Although, if you do have a serial skipper, who is always out for the campaign, maybe it's time you sit down with them and be like, is it time for your character to move on?
Yeah, I think that's another point, maybe a separate discussion.
Yeah.
The group I play with, we only play when everyone can play, which is a...
Good officer.
Yeah, it's an alternative play, but kind of a mutual handshake in that, we're all super busy, and we plan a month out to get 1 or 2 sessions a month, but it makes them all the more meaningful when all of us are there around the table, and people can take it more seriously, we will not fail unless there's really...
Yeah, the hardest big evil bad guy in D&D is Skeptic.
I'm also not employed or paid by this website, but doodle.com.
Yes, Doodle is
Just
fantastic.
throwing that out there.
You can create a
I've
doodle,
done it a few times.
you can do like time slots and then send them out to your players and they're like, I'm available for this time slot, or this one.
Are we good on that, by the way? Cool. Who else has a question? I'm going to say long hair glasses, yellow sweatshirt in the back. Is that a yellow? No, shit.
Stop with the colors.
Yes.
I'm colorblind, you, yes.
Okay, so I'm going to work this question in a little bit too. But one problem that we have in our sessions is that we have some very ambitious players who really, really want to sort of be like those podcasts ones. Like they want to be doing all these cool things and they want to work in like the players, running the environment and all that stuff. But on the other hand, if our GM tries to bring up details of the character's backstory, they don't want to hear it. They're not interested in what the other person's doing. They just want to be railroaded. And so his question is, how do you stop your players from wanting to just stay on the railroad? And my question as a player is, into the whole room, where is the sweet spot as far as backstory, individual characters? Boring, I don't have planned, but if I have this whole backstory, nobody wants to hear it.
Yeah, I think that sweet spot is going to be different for every group and every person within every group. It's very rare that you're going to find, at least in my experience, and I've maybe played with a few dozen people, keep that in mind, but I very rarely come in a group that is 100% all on the same page about the level of role-playing they want. You know, I'm running a group now who's, it's all people I met online, because I like to travel, but I'd also recommend that to people. I think John like yourself, I just met a bunch of random people online and playing with you. You learn a lot faster.
I think it's easier for you as a guy to meet people online.
Yes.
Like the first time we met, he messaged me over Reddit. I brought a friend to meet you because I'm smart like that.
But to get back to your question, I've had people, the group that I'm in, 20 years ago, very much like the whole into critical role, that sort of crowd.
I think it's called the Matthew Mercer effect.
I tried to not invoke the name of Mercer too much because he's already like way up here. No, it's fine. So they are very much into role play, and I had other partners, players who other players in the group who were looking for a dungeon. And I had tried to level set at the beginning that, hey, we're going to mix it up here, we're trying to get pretty even 3 pillars, exploration, social, and combat. But even with that understanding, this person would give other players the evil eye at the table if they started asking too many questions to the NPCs, drawing out social interactions, giving the like angry. You see when this person's on their phone, they're staring daggers at someone who's talking too much, getting to the front. I mean, you see it at the table, you see it happen, and really like this is a situation where I feel like communication again is really important because the goal is to have everybody. Maybe not elated in every session, but glad they came to the session. Yeah, just like enjoy the session. And that's going to be, like, because sometimes certain people are going to get more out of it than others, and I think that's just the reality we have to expect. Not everybody in the group is going to be at the same place. And I think as long as you're able to communicate and you give people the opportunity to present what they would like to do, they're comfortable presenting what they would like to do at the table, and at least having that acknowledged, if not always acted on by the group, then I think that's a great place to start. And if people still aren't comfortable from there, or just not feeling engaged, then maybe it's this is the right game for you kind of situation.
Finding a D&D group is like finding the right doctor. You kind of have to shop around a little bit.
Yeah, there's a Goldilocks situation at work.
Yeah.
Well, if you start playing with options,
Well, listen, that's a whole whole other panel.
I think that's a different fable entirely.
Yeah.
One thing you can do with your different players to take improv again is the idea of giving your players gifts. You're there to present them, and knowing who's there for the numbers and who's there for the storytelling and character interactions, being able to make that into, let's say you're in a combat encounter and you have one person who's all about the social stuff. You could have it where, you know, during the turn, one of the enemies ends up having a social interaction with them, playing to that role-playing aspect, and then the person who's just there to stab into the numbers, you can stab into the numbers, but you can also up that by mechanically making a bigger deal out of the dice roll. It's like, oh, I gotta make this check. You can make a big old show of, all right, your number, my number, and really play out the actual math of it. And if that's something that person gets really excited about, adding those numbers, giving that while you're also giving the other person things. You can present the way you operate differently to your individual players based on what appeals to them in your play style.
Yep, I like that. I think just to maybe close it, as long as everyone understands that there's no right way to play D&D, and everybody is fully justified in playing what they want to get. And I think that you might not always get invitations at the same time, and I think that's the place to start. Good on you.
I've done 8 and fuck that. Good on you.
A lot of it is if you're the someone
Yes.
I found that my players are happiest when they come to me and they're like, here's what happened with that story, and the other thing that I found is I engage is I make them specific questions that they have to go up and learn to have an experience with them. So they are everyone's had so far, I felt pretty satisfied with that. So a lot of it is just make sure you talk to your DM or talk to your players. How much do you want to go?
I'm always upfront with my DMs. I let them know if you introduce an NPC into this game, I will try and date them. That is just who I am as a player.
We had 4 NPCs in the party.
Okay. Yep.
So,
Yes.
Board game based off the Google. It's called. We can do like a one game.
So what I did is because I found everyone still involved. Nobody goes to the game at once. Yes. And when you have something you only have to
That's why I love my style and villainy, because it's so hard to do well. It's so hard to do well on all of those. And I don't
So to summarize, not being afraid when you're getting started game, not being afraid that you don't know all the rules. Number 1, nobody does, and number 2, someone does, and they're at your table and can help you. If you can change the rules in your system, as long as you're transparent with your group why you're doing that, that's great.
Don't be afraid.
Yep. There, I'd like to encourage people to ask other questions. If there are any other burning questions that you have, I want to try and get somebody after I'll back corner against the wall.
You're gonna have to shout, dude.
So, in campaign I'm currently running, I have wonderful players, and I'm very lucky to have them in my life, especially as my players. But they don't adhere to any of the storylines that I've written at all. I mean, I want to give them as much of an open world experience as possible so that they have the most impact in their environment. But every time I try to introduce the storyline A, B, C, D, all the way up to F, they just completely ignore all of that. So, is there any advice for that?
I think I'd like to answer that question with a question. So when your players are, the question, as I understand it, was your players seem to be ignoring the plot books that you're putting out there.
Yes.
And my question to you is, are they suggesting things of their own, or are they just going off to mess around with the hub? What happened for an entire session? How are they doing anything like that?
I mean, they're doing things that aren't in character, and if you take the suggestions to heart, like I write the story around them mostly.
Yeah.
But for the most part, they just try and avoid the main storyline of the scary world ending kind of stuff. So, what would be the best way to get them back on? Please don't fight the devil, which is going to kill you.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with characters ignoring the main plot, but that also means that the main plot is going to happen without them, and if the world ends because they didn't do it, then, I mean, I'm not going to say it's on them, but also sometimes it's fun to not do all those big fight the evil bad guys. Let's go off and goof off around town. I know it's a little disappointing that they don't want to follow onto the plot hooks. Maybe it might be something for another group that you have, or maybe you can find something that doesn't use them in a smaller way.
Yeah, I think this goes back to the idea of agreeing on the tone of the campaign when you begin. Did you have much of a conversation at the start of your game about the tone of these games, whether it's going to be like this local adventures moving off versus like Save the World versus like the house versus pirates or whatever? Yeah, a conversation like that.
I'm sorry, that was a question, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yes, and I've tried to incorporate more of that in this campaign, and in the next campaign, it's definitely
Yeah, I think it's just a learning process. You know, it could be that they maybe weren't entirely sure up front about what they would latch on to. And again, I'm permissive. I tend to give people the benefit of the doubt as long as people are upfront and honest. And I feel like people are communicating with what they want. I think it's totally fair for you to feel like you've written, I assume, my grasp of invested in the story that you have or the scenario that you have. Maybe not that they maybe don't really understand why they're not latching onto it. Yeah. And for them, you know, they're attracted to the type of story or adventure that they are, you know, that they want to do. I think there might be a good ground there, but there might also need to be a moment where you say, it's okay if you don't care, but do you care about this? Do we need to shift the focus here? And nothing's ever, I think it is disheartening, right, to have that kind of conversation, but at the end of the day, nothing's ever really lost. That's another technique I think of DMing. No preparation is ever lost. It might not be the right adventure for the group you're playing with now, but it might be the right adventure for a group that should be 6 months from now or a year from now. It's always there, it's always yours, there's always the possibility of finding players who are we're at about 10 minutes left, so I think we have 2 more questions. So let's try to get people who have had let's go, I'm trying to remember, Richard,
I have had a problem with comfortable whenever I ask them about what I can do to change things up to make it more fun for them. They just kind of say, oh no, I'm having a good time, it's fine. So I was wondering if you have any experience figuring out how to tell what is wrong and what has a common or ways of asking them so that
So there, I would ask for a show of hands here, but who's psychic who in this room? Nobody here can really tell what's going necessarily conclusively what's wrong with the situation unless somebody speaks up about it. And I think
Communication is a two-way street.
yeah, absolutely. And that was one thing I think I'm going to give very quickly. The Clip Notes version of communication at tabletop games. Really, I think the job as the DM is to, it really shouldn't be their jobs because everybody can take what's involved, but the job of the DM, in my opinion, is to facilitate communication at the table, and the way to do that is by making a safe or environment where people can feel comfortable to share, either with the group or just with you as the DM to DM, what you're feeling. The way I typically try to do that is by being receptive to what they're telling me and acknowledging it, putting aside my initial reaction to it, and just listening to it, acknowledging it, like I've been trying to do with some of these questions tonight. And just doing that, I feel like makes a whole lot of sense. It makes it comfortable to share those kinds of feelings. That's all you can do. At the end of the day, all you can really do is give people the space to share what they're going through. And you'll notice when they are not sharing based on things like whether they're at their phone, on their phone all night, if they're scoffing, if they're not, if they are presenting what they want to do and then just deferring. It's different to say, I want to go to the Goblin games, and everybody else wants to go to the Crazy games, so okay, fine, whatever. Versus capitulating, which is to go with the will of the group with the understanding that next time you might, there will be a time when you get to do what you want. And also another indicator of good communication would be people congratulating what other people are doing, raising up what other people are doing. If you see that sort of behavior, then I feel like that's a really good environment for people to contribute. If you don't see those things, if you don't see people congratulating each other, if you don't see people having an understanding, even if things aren't going that way, then maybe you might need time to say, hey, if there's anything you want to say, I'm here to listen. Probably phrase it better than that. You might try to say. Cool. Is that all right? I think we do one more. Is there somebody I've got to? I think so. Making specifically environmental hazards interesting in a way where it's more fun than it's just a dice roll hazard. I think my best resource here on anything like this is still something. My best advice would be to go to if there's a specific environmental hazard, tundra, acid pools, lava. Somebody's already written a dissertation on how to do lava pools in a D&D game. A 5-minute Google search would probably help. So from a rules perspective, somebody out there has already done it. Go ahead and take that and make it your own. The other thing I would encourage you to do is think of strong descriptors. We're talking sight, smell, hopefully not taste for acid or lava. But
Give your players something to interact with. If they want to lick acid off the floor, describe the acid off the floor.
Or describe the half-dissolved, I keep going back to kobolds, half-dissolved kobold next to a pool of acid, kind of just like signaling, hey, this is bad
This
stuff.
is something you can interact with.
Yeah, this isn't just a random pool. Is that cool? So we are at the end of our time.